Hey, yeah. I don't know why, y'all. I have been yelling that out. I wanna shoot. I don't know, just that. Hey, yeah. You ever just get something in you and you just want to yell it out, scream it out? But that is not what we're here for. We welcome back to another What Else is Going On, aka We Go podcast episode. I'm your girl, your host, Taria. We are getting ready to get into the Real Housewives of Orange County, season 19, episode 20, A Source of Discontent. Look, at this point, I'm not going back renumbering. Shout out to y'all for when I have misnumbered them. Y'all have let me know, like, hey, girl, this is not episode 7, this is episode 10. I appreciate that. I'm trying to now go by the numbers outside of those legitimate mistakes that I have made, which again, thank y'all for that because I definitely want to keep it cohesive. Since Peacock has stopped adding Watch What Happens Live as an episode, like right now it says season 19, episode 20. But we know they were up until the last couple episodes, they were adding Watch What Happens Live on it. So I'm saying I'm not going back removing the Watch What Happens Live from the number count. I'm just going to stick with what Peacock has here, and it has it as episode 20. I don't know why they did that in the first place. They thought, well, we know why they did it. They thought they was slick. Anyway, let's get into it. Y'all know I did not review last week's episode, despite telling y'all I'm gonna get it out. I'm gonna get it out. If it was like Potomac, Salt Lake City, but anyway, let's get into this episode. So we're in Amsterdam, day 3. I felt like Shannon, y'all been here a year. Y'all still in Amsterdam? The ladies are getting ready to go out for the day. Gretchen called Slade and talked to him about the night before. So the night before, Gretchen had a breakdown, I put in quotes, just about her and Tamara getting into it, and it's just too much and all of that stuff. So she called Slade to talk to him about it. Emily and Gina are getting ready, and Emily's upset because the night before, Shane called her and he said he basically lost it when it came to Luke. He was trying to have Luke, he had to do this, do that. Luke was refusing, but then you hear Luke in the background saying, that's not true. That's not true. So Shane just kind of had like a breakdown, if you will, I get for lack of a better word. Emily says that makes her feel really bad, like she shouldn't go anywhere. And Gina's trying to tell her, you are deserving of this. You have to still be good and take care of yourself. Emily's feeling really guilty and not a good mom because she's not there and she's blaming herself, which is sad. And I understand where that comes from, but also she's doing her job. It's not her fault, So there's that. The ladies are getting in the Sprinter van. So they're going out for the day. They had 2 separate events. Some of the ladies are going to swing over to the city of Amsterdam. Other ladies are going to a maze. So we have Gina, Heather, and Shannon in one van. They're going to do mushrooms and go to a maze. Emily, Gretchen, Tamara, and Jen are going to swing, like I said, above Amsterdam. Child, like black people adding an S to everything. Anyway, in her confessional, Shannon said, I've never done shrooms before. So the producer said, well, is this a new Shannon? She said, this is not a new Shannon. This is Amsterdam Shannon, and it's just going to be a little bit. In the other van, the ladies are talking about, okay, I want y'all have to give me, first thing, y'all have to give me what y'all really thought about this scene. Because I'm going to tell y'all what I thought, and y'all might be surprised. Or maybe not. So in the other ladies, in the van with Jen, Tamra, Gretchen, and Emily, they're talking about how funny Shannon is and was like, Shannon is just so funny. And they talk about how she pulled up her dress the other day to show them she had on a push-up bra and she had on Spanx. And they make a joke that Shannon is going to be a hard lay because the guy's going to have to get through so many layers of Spanx. I didn't take that as them talking bad about Shannon. I took that like, even if it was an extremely thin person wearing Spanx or any type of a lot of undergarments or whatever, or a shaper or this or that. Whoever gets under there, child, they're gonna have to fight for it. They really gonna have to want to get to the cookie, right? Then they say again how funny she is. Emily says, Spanx kill me. All it does is redistribute. That's it. I don't think she was talking specifically about Shannon. In that moment, she said Spanx kill me and not like Spanx on Shannon. Just like Spanx in themselves, they kill me. It ain't sucking nothing and it's just redistributing what you got to somewhere else. And y'all know I don't give Emily nothing, a thing. But I truly believe that in that moment she wasn't talking specifically about Shannon. And she says, they don't do anything to the fat but redistribute it, and then when you take them off, poof, like a can of biscuits. I honestly thought I actually enjoyed Emily in that moment when she said, you just cut it, when you cut them off, poof, you explode. I thought they were having like a woman to woman bonding moment, like child of stuff we go through. I thought they were talking about the terrorists known as Spanx. Like I did not get that they were specifically talking about Shannon and her body, but y'all let me know. And again, y'all know, those of y'all that are new here, I don't give Emily a thing. Not near air thing. It's rare, okay? That's rare air that I give her anything. But I just don't think that they were intentionally being mean to Shannon about Shannon's body. But y'all let me know what y'all think. So the ladies that are going swinging get to the building. All of a sudden, they like, psych, I was playing. Joke's on you. I'm not swinging because it was a lot. Gretchen and Tamara end up swinging together. And Gretchen's like, oh, Lord, she's trying to kill me. So Tamara's in the swing, arms high, legs kicking. She's not scared. Gretchen don't want to open her eyes. Jen and Emily go. Emily's scared too. And Tamara's laughing like, y'all are like, child, we knew Tamara wasn't going to be scared because that's just, Tamara is, when I think of Tamara, I like them girls in the country, down in the country. Like she gonna do whatever. It don't. Ooh, yeah, she gonna do whatever. Like it does not matter. She gonna shoot the pow pows. She gonna have on the cowboy boots. She gonna swing over Amsterdam. She ain't scared. It don't matter. So at the maze, they have a bar. Shannon goes, orders her drink. They all sit down and they have a conversation about the night before about Gretchen having her breakdown. So Heather says, do you realize that Tamara and Gretchen are together? So then Gina says she felt bad for Gretcher's, child, I'm so sick of this name, for Gretcher's last night. So Heather says, on the way home, Gretchen was upset, crying, and taking accountability for her actions. They show a flashback to Gretchen basically telling them, y'all are saying I'm doing the same things that Tamara's doing. I'm not recognizing it, so I need to do better. I'm sorry. Right. In her confessional, Heather says Gretchen doesn't really like to apologize, but somebody had to put the sword down first, and it seems like Gretchen's going to do it. So Gina is telling Heather and Shannon, but Child Shannon is not on the planet with us right at this point. Gina says, I'm tired of them saying we're going to be better, we're going to be better, and then go right back to taking digs. The back and forth is a lot. So with Shannon sitting there, it reminded me, remember a couple seasons ago on RHOP when Karen was like the vaccination instead of vaccination? That's what it reminded me of. And Candace doing the projection thing back to me. Y'all, that was so funny. So all of a sudden Shannon goes, listen to those drums. And then they insert like the Orange County theme music. Shannon says, this is the Housewives music, isn't it? Heather says, what are you talking about? So Shannon's like, just listen. In the confessional, the producer asked Gina, did you hear the music too? Gina said, I did not. I think Shannon's just nuts. Heather says in her confessional, Shannon's brain is melting in real time, and I don't hear the creepy clown music. When she called their music creepy clown music, instantly I was like, that's exactly what it sounds like to me. That's the accurate way to describe it. So back in the scene, Shannon is like, this is the Real Housewives of Orange County music. This is it. And then she goes, okay, wait, hold up now. Everybody's laughing at me. I'm tripping. They go through the maze and they see funny pictures, and the pictures look like different versions of all the women, right? So they're laughing about all of that. Heather said, they've made me an old lady. And Shannon says, that's Heather's biggest fear, like basically getting old. So I said, I wonder, like, would y'all do something like that? Now, I'm not gonna lie, the whole shrooms part, I would skip. Child, I don't know how it's gonna affect me. I ain't trying to not be in control. They might have had to shut the camera down. The way they were walking through them halls and the mannequins were there. And what if I took a shroom and I reacted violently? Like, and I went through trying to fight the mannequins. Like, y'all will not catch me on TV like that. I don't think I'll be able to do it. But would y'all have done it? And I wonder if the maze would have been as, is it designed to only be crazy on shrooms, or can you go through just not high and it be the same effect? Probably not, right? That's the whole reason. But anyway, what would y'all have done? Would y'all have went swinging or the shrooms? Because I definitely probably not have would have went swinging. I don't think so. I'm 98% sure. Um, so back at the swing after Emily, Gretchen, Tamara, and Jen swing, they sit down and they order drinks. So Jen asks Tamara and Gretchen, how do they feel? So Gretchen says, I'm realizing I can't expect something from you. She's talking to Tamara that you're not willing to give. Jen said, so what do you wish would have worked out different? I said, come on, Jen, trying to get into that housewife's bag and move the story, like trying to be a housewife. And Gretchen said, look, I've lost a lot of people in my life due to cancer. I would have hoped that now that Tamara, you are dealing with someone close to you in your life battling cancer, you would reflect back and say, I'm sorry how I treated you during that time. Because remember, Gretchen, when she came on, she was dating a man named Jeff. He was her fiance, actually, and he passed away from cancer. I believe his son passed away from cancer as well, I think. So Tamara said, I'm really sorry for hurting you during that time. In her confessional, Gretchen says she thinks Tamara's sincere and that's the first time Tamara actually heard what she had to say. Tamara said, look, can we sign a friendship contract? I said, come on, Cynthia from Real Housewives of Atlanta, because Cynthia is the originator of the friend contract. So Tamara goes to Chat GPT and asks them to make a friendship contract between her and Gretchen. Child Chat PT says, this contract hereby acknowledges the chaotic rekindling of a friendship between Tamara Judge and Gretchen Rossi. Both parties agree to refrain from taking shots at each other. Gretchen said that's going to be tough. In her confessional, Emily says, I think these two ding dongs need to sign it in blood and just move on. So the friendship contract continues. There's a Slade memorandum. Tamara agrees not to mention Slade Smiley's finances, career, or even his existence. I said, please, yes, let's move on. So the ladies, it looks like they all get back to the hotel, but then they all go in different groups. And you have Shannon and Gretchen, Tamara with Gina, Emily and Heather. And it made me wonder, do y'all think that production is like, you're going to split into groups and we pick the groups? Or do you think they picked who they were going with? Because if I was looking at that, I would think it would have been Gina and Emily, Heather Heather and Tamara, and probably Shannon in their group, and maybe Jen with Emily and Gina. And they would have just had two, three and three instead of two, two and two. But do y'all think the producers, or do y'all know, maybe some of y'all know, specifically with Housewives or whatever, or Orange County, that they make them pair up with who they want them to, or they suggest in quotes. But then Emily, anyway, I'm sorry. Shannon and Gretchen go off together. Gretchen starts to tell Shannon, she says, I got to tell you something. And Shannon is like, oh, is it something that I've done? And Gretchen says, no. And Shannon's relieved. And she starts to tell her about the conversation about the Spanx on the bus, but we won't get into that until that comes out later. So we then see Gina and Tamara together. Tamara tells, they see bikes and they think maybe they'll ride bikes tomorrow. Gina doesn't really want to, but Tamara wants to. So Tamara tells Gina that her and Gretchen did a friendship contract. So Tamara says it's confusing because I'm not going to pretend she's a good person. No, you're confusing because that was extra. You know, you put 20 on 10 with the whole friendship contract when y'all could have just you could have left it at apologizing if you felt like you treated her a certain way when she was dealing with her fiance dying of cancer, right? You the one that went there with the whole friendship contract. Now you're telling Gina, I don't believe she's a good person. So Gina said, I think you have her figured out. Gina then says, I keep going back to the post that you shared with me. So they do a flashback of Tamara showing Gina a post that was anti-LGBTQ and anti-trans, and allegedly Gretchen liked the post. Gina is telling Tamara there's a part of her that thinks maybe it's not true about Gretchen liking it, and she wants Gretchen to make her feel better about it. Tamara says she asks questions too. Tamara's like, look, don't bring it up tomorrow night. I mean, tonight at the dinner. Don't bring it up tonight. And they're like, yeah, we're going to let everybody enjoy their dinner. And Tamara's like, you can bring it up tomorrow when we get on the plane. So Emily and Heather go to disperse of Heather's father's ashes. Again, I was surprised that it was Emily and Heather and not Emily I was surprised that it was Emily and Heather and not Heather and Tamara because they have a real friendship. Real as real as it can be, right? or either Heather and Gina. But it's Emily, and I guess they've gotten close, maybe off camera. I mean, considering just last season they had their issues about the whole you gave me this size, this dress, you told me to bring all of that. So anyway, I'm in her confessional. Heather does say her and Emily got closer, talking about the kids and the husband, and she really thinks Emily will understand. They get to Heather's parents' old home. They're outside talking. Heather's telling Emily about her father and growing up there and how happy he was there. And out walks the homeowner, and she tells them, my parents used to live here. He says, do you want to come in? I'm not going to lie. When he came out, I said, here we go. They're going to get ready to go in the house. It was planned. But then when Heather turns to like the camera crew and is like, can we go in? And they say, sure. I was like, maybe it was real. But then I went right back to, this is fake. They planned it. Housewives has made me so distrusting of some of these storylines. So do y'all think that it was legit real? Like, do y'all think it just so happened? Because Heather does feel like it was divine. Like, basically, it was her dad, opening that door for her to go in. So they go in, they look at the home. Heather tries to FaceTime her mom. Her mom doesn't answer. They come out and they go walk down to the canal and they sit down on the ground. Sit down on the ground with their legs kind of dangling over. And Heather says, I think I need a private moment. And I did laugh because Emily said, all right, I know you need a private moment. And she like scoots over and was like, because I'm not going to be able to get back up. So Heather says some things to her dad. And I feel like she was releasing her dad from the things that she was holding him to and what he wasn't to her that she wanted him to be. She tells a story about her and her dad had the same mole, and and I guess in their ear, and he wrote in her journal, I think as a kid, like, just think about the mole will always be, together, and that he did the best he could. So she kind of releases herself from holding on to those feelings and releases him, and she puts his ashes in the canal. Her and Emily hug. They have a really special moment. So the girls are getting ready for dinner. We see Jen FaceTime Ryan Shaw. He makes a joke about having two pussycats in his bed, but of course leaves out the word cat. Come on now. Seeing Shannon get ready, simultaneously trying to wipe that mirror and realizing she got on the wrong color on her face was funny. The ladies arrive at the restaurant. They're giving their orders. So Heather shares how her and Emily went to where her parents lived. I got to put his ashes in the canal, and it was beautiful. She says it was a good day. Shannon brings up what Gretchen told her about the Spanx conversation. Shannon says Gretchen told her they said no man would ever want to sleep with Shannon because she wears Spanx and all this stuff. And they're like, that is not what was said. Like, we didn't say that. Gretchen admits that she laughed. I admitted that I laughed and should have stuck up for her more. The girls are like, girl, that is not what was said. In her confessional, Gina says sometimes with Gretchen, she tries to act pious and that she's above everything, but then she's causing these problems. So Shannon says, look, when it comes to me, I can joke about me. I can make fun of myself. But Emily, especially after the issues you had talking about Emily's body issues, and Emily said, I wasn't talking about you specifically. So Shannon says, no guy's going to want to sleep with Shannon because she's going to have to pull the Spanx off. Gretchen totally relayed that back wrong. And I wonder what Shannon thinks watching it back. Actually, I need to go to the after show and see if Shannon speaks on it. Because that is not, again, I didn't take it that they were talking about Shannon, but that's definitely not what they said. No man is ever going to want to sleep with Shannon. Again, they said it's going to be a hard leg because we got to cut through Spanx. And that could be with anybody wearing them. So Tamara says that was never said. In her confessional, Jen says we were very much talking about Shannon. And y'all were to me in the beginning, but I don't think, I could be wrong. So then, wait a minute. Oh, Emily said, from my perspective, and Jen was there was no malicious intent. So Gretchen says, Emily, you had just said, and Emily screams, shut up. Gretchen, shut up. Gretchen said, Emily, you can never be called out about anything. Emily says, you really want to call things out? You're going to piss me off and I'm going to lose it on you. And Tamara was just cracking up. She was loving it. Emily turns to Shannon and says, you're my friend. I love you very much. And if I said something that hurt your feelings, that was not my intent. And Shannon says, thank you. Emily said, in my mind, it was a funny conversation. And we started it out by talking about how funny you are. And Jen said, how what we love about you. And Emily said, and how much we enjoy being around you and how you're hilarious. Shannon says, I appreciate that. Thank you. In her confessional, Shannon said, I'm glad that I have that relationship with Emily where I can speak honestly and say that hurt my feelings and that she tries to remedy it. That's what a real friendship is. Then she says, I'm glad I didn't explode like a can of biscuits. That's how I feel like sometimes when you have your heels on for too long, like I can wear heels for a long time. Sometimes it's standing still is when my feet hurt. If I'm walking around in heels, I'm good. But standing still, and then sometimes if your feet end up smelling shot, you can't take them off because if you take them off, like the biscuits, you might as well forget it. You ain't just like you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. You're not getting your feet back in them shoes if they swell. Anyway, Shannon gets up and says, I'm gonna go to the restroom, and they tell her to pull her skirt down because it's short. Child, Shannon's tag is hanging out the back. They are cracking up and they're like, Child, we cannot say anything to her after all this. It's gonna send her over the edge. So the next day, we have Shannon, Jen, and Tamra. Oh no, well, first we start out. The ladies are getting ready to go about their day. Jen is in Shannon's room. Bike riding is in 15 minutes. Shannon is nowhere near ready. She says, I'm almost done. So Shannon just stares at her and starts laughing. And Shannon is like, What? Jen says, There's just something about you. You just do it for me. Then you have Gina, Tamara, Jen, and Shannon. They go bike riding. They were a mess trying to bike ride through the streets. In Amsterdam, they take bike riding seriously. I heard someone else that lived in Amsterdam for like a year or so say that. Like, and y'all, when I tell you I love riding bikes, I could ride a bike every single day. I love it. My mom loves riding bikes too. But anyway, that could just like change my whole mood. Going on a bike ride, I love bike riding. But anyway, so they're a mess through the streets. Meanwhile, Emily, Gretchen, and Heather go shopping. So Gretchen asked Emily, How is everything with Shane and the kids at home? So Emily said after his breakdown, he sent her pictures with Luke and everything was fine. She said he's not necessarily apologizing for his breakdown, but in other words, letting her know everything is okay. In her confessional, Emily said, This is probably going to be a lifelong struggle that Shane and I are going to deal with. There's going to be good days, bad days, and it's okay. This is just their life as parents. So she tells the ladies she was so stressed out that night she was thinking that she should go home. Heather said it's hard, but you have to remember there's going to be a new day, and one moment doesn't determine the next. I said, I know that's right, Heather. So Emily tells Gretchen Heather always talks her off the ledge when it comes to the kids. Now we at the park with the other ladies. They sit down, they have some snacks. So Gina says to Jen, I saw your post. I'm proud of you. And the other ladies were like, Well, what'd she do? She says Jen was doing a workout on her own. That would annoy me a little bit, kind of. I know because I feel like Gina, you trying to open up a door to talk about like using Jen's insecurities to have a conversation. I'm proud of you for posting a workout video by yourself, as if Jen doesn't have any by herself on her page. They show a flashback of Gina talking about she feels like when she goes to Jen's page, it's Ryan's page because it's so much content and I don't want you getting lost, your identity and all that stuff. And I don't know if I believe Gina. I'm gonna be honest with you. Do y'all? Y'all let me know. Anyway, so Gina tells Jen, I feel like Ryan is your safety net and it gets in the way of you developing your confidence. So Jen does say sometimes she gets in her head because Ryan has a colorful past. Tamara said, Yeah, he was a playboy. And Jen's concern is, will she be enough for him when they're 70 and titties are swinging left to right, up and down, throwing it over your shoulder like a boulder holder? Do the boobs hang low? Like everything is going every which way. Will she still be the girl for him? Will she still be enough? So Tamara said, I would like to see you establish yourself financially in case something doesn't work out. That way, you know, you're going to be fine. You're not depending on him. And you could tell him, I'm paying for my own kids. You can go. And that'll alleviate a lot of stress between the two of you. In her confessional, Jen says she wishes she could have conversations like that with Tamara without the snark. They wish they could do it more. She wishes Tamara could be that person more often. So Jen said, I'm surprised OnlyFans didn't come up. And Tamara said, Hey, there's still an option. You could do naked yoga. Jen said, Listen, if we have to, we have to. In the meantime, I think the other girls made waffles. I don't remember if they talked about anything. I ain't even gonna lie. The ladies are getting ready for the Last Supper. And Shannon, after they leave there, Shannon is taking the train to Paris the next day, I think, to visit Stella, I believe, or one of her daughters. They get to dinner, they're ordering. Shannon asks who wants to split crabs with her. Tamara says, "Child, we don't want the itchy one." She tells the story of how she got crabs before she was itchy. A man told her he got it from a toilet seat, but she thinks he was cheating. And Shannon is like, "We're ordering." So Tamara does a toast to their last night in Amsterdam. Then she says, "I'm going to cry." They start playing the RHOC creepy clown music. She said, "This year has been very hard for me." And then they start doing title cards. And her title card says, "Tamara and Eddie have been spending lots of time in Big Bear, while Sophia is planning to move to NYC to pursue music. She has no plans to record with her mother." Tamara thanks them all for being there with her because, with everything going on with Teddy. She thanks Heather for helping her through a very dark time. Heather's title card comes up and says Heather and Terry sold their Beverly Hills house at 5.8 million. She doesn't plan on buying a new place in Orange County, and that's no lie. I guess that's a throwback to like lying about paparazzi. Tamara tells them all she loves them, and they show Shannon's face. Shannon's card says Shannon has a new guy in her life, Troy, the golden retriever. She's riding this emotional high, space cake free. Remember, earlier in the season, a couple episodes ago, she went over to Jen's house and they had a dog whisperer, psychic, medium, and they told Shannon Archie wants a brother. So I guess he's got Trevor. Trevor. Gina says, "We love you too." Gina's title card says gated group. Child, my notes say roof. The gated group, which is where Gina does her real estate from, is going strong, as are Gina and Travis. Gina is still living without fear unless she's critiquing Heather's improv. Child. Heather said, may their glam always be flawless. May a receipt always be accurate. Jen's title card comes up and says, Ryan and Jen still do not have a wedding date planned. However, Dawson recently graduated from Marine boot camp, but passed out 20 minutes into the ceremony. Y'all need to get his blood pressure checked or blood sugar or something. Heather says, "Our friendships, although sometimes complicated, may they always be worth the ride." So Tamara's like, "Did you just make that up?" Emily said, "I think she chat GPT'd on the way here." Emily's title card says, Emily continues to navigate Luke's evolving diagnosis. She's learned to embrace life as an unpredictable ride, including the one at the Abbey. Remember, she saved a horse and rode a cowboy at the Abbey earlier in the season. Gretchen doesn't get a title card. She's a friend. Gretchen asked about the sharks hanging off the ceiling, and then she goes, "Oh, this restaurant's interesting." Perfect opening for Gina to say, "Gretchen, I have something to ask you." I said, "What happened to Gretchers?" I guess that's not in serious moments. She said, "When we were in Orange County," and Tamara interrupted and said, "Are you talking about the conversation we had?" Gina said, "Yes." Tamara says, Gina says, "It's been weighing on me." Tamara says, "Me too." Gina said, "There are posts that are very disparaging towards the LGBTQ plus community." They show Heather's face. Gretchen said, "Oh gosh, I would never do that. It's probably something I didn't know about." She said, "I don't have any issues with the LGBTQ community." Gina says, "Why are you all on social media liking these things?" Gretchen says, "Unfortunately, I have a tendency to scroll and like things if I'm not paying enough attention." Shannon says, "How did you see that, Tamara?" Tamara said, "It was something that was sent through to iHeart, which is the platform that her podcast is on." Emily said, "Well, did you talk about it?" Tamara said, "iHeart told her she couldn't bring it up." So Jen says, "Tamara, do you have it pulled up?" They give the phone to Heather. Heather puts them glasses on. She reads it. And someone is saying, yeah, they're talking about Dylan Mulvaney, who's a trans woman. And somebody says, "Who's that?" And Heather says, "A friend of mine." Remember, Heather interviewed her, had her on her podcast earlier that year. Gretchen said, "How did you go find that? This is terrible." Jen says, "This is so not like you. You know, why are you liking that?" So Heather says, "Do you not understand? I just threw an event for the Trevor Project. LGBTQ plus youth are so in danger right now." And Gretchen trying to say, "I know." And Heather's like, every 45 seconds, one of them tries to unalive themselves. Tamara and Gina are having a sidebar conversation. Heather says, "I'm speaking." Child, they were like, sorry, sorry. Heather said, "Do you understand the hate rhetoric and what this does to our children?" So in her confessional, Heather says, "It doesn't seem like Gretchen. Gretchen's always had a lot of friends in the community. If this is true, I just have no words." I have a lot of thoughts watching this scene, by the way. So Gretchen says, Heather, it's not like me at all. So then they're like, well, why aren't you horrified right now? They get up and show them to Gretchen because Heather's like, show them to her. Gretchen said, this makes me really sad. Heather said, it makes you sad. I said, oh, baby. Tamara said, if you really feel that way, like the post, stand up for what you feel. Heather said, this is about human decency. So Jen says, and let me know if I knew where Jen was headed. I did not think Jen was excusing it. Jen said, biblically, Jen said, do you biblically feel like this? Because I know you're very strong in your faith. Heather screams, biblical. And Jen said, I'm trying to ask her. I see what Jen was getting at. The Gretchen I know is not this person liking these hateful tweets. The Gretchen I know embraces that community. So where could that be coming from other than we know that she's strong in her faith? We know what the Bible says. This is what I'm thinking where Jen was going. Jen was not excusing it at all. But I get also Heather's reaction like, because this is so important, like I get Heather's reaction as well. So Gretchen said, I'm just trying to get to the bottom of what other reason does she have saying this? I'm not defending it. So Tamara said, Jesus loves gay people too. Heather screamed, Jesus does not like hate. Jen said, I'm not saying that, Heather. All this is going on, and Gretchen is sitting there like a Stepford wife, just calm, cool, collected. In her confessional, Jen says, I know Gretchen. I know her heart. This is a mess. At the end of the table, Heather says, you're intentionally liking hate rhetoric. Gretchen says, I don't know that I was doing that. So Gina says to Gretchen, like, Heather's going to need an explanation. She's going to need an explanation. In her confessional, Gretchen said, all I know is I'm seeing a screenshot of something I supposedly liked, but I've never seen that account in my life, and I'm completely blindsided with this information. Here's what I want to know. Why ain't none of them get out their phones? Oh, Gretchen, take out your phone. Pull up the account that's on this screenshot. Let's go to the likes and see if you liked it. If Gretchen had to pull it up from her phone, that post, if it was liked, it would have been lit up. The little, whether what was it, a heart or a thumbprint, whatever platform it was on, the like would have been lit up. Boom, we'd have been able to see it. Why didn't any of them do that? Is it because they were in the moment? Like, I'm just not clear why any of them didn't do that in that moment. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Because it gave her time, if she did like it, to unlike, like what we see later on in the episode. But anyway, so Heather's like, why would you do that? And Heather's like, I don't know. Wait, no, I'm sorry. Gretchen says in her confession, I don't have the answers. This is not me. Gretchen tells Heather, look at me. This is not how I feel. Heather's like, why would you do that? Gretchen says, I don't know. Tamara says, this is not an I don't know answer. So Gretchen is saying, I'm telling you, this is not how I feel. I don't believe those things. I don't know how this got linked back to my account. Shannon gets emotional, and Jen is like, what's wrong? She's like, because it's so hateful. In her confessional, Shannon said, some of the closest people to me in my life are part of the LGBTQ community. And it hurt to think that there's such hate out there, that people are posting things and liking things. This has nothing to do with that. I'm not going to make the comparison. Nope. I'm just going to stick to this right here. Jen says, y'all, I'm sorry, that was me talking to myself in real time, like Taria, stick to what we're talking about. Jen says, so you knew about this to Tamara? Tamara says, yeah. Jen said, for how long? Tamara says, about a year. Shannon said, why didn't you say something before? Like, you just wait now. Tamara said, no matter what I say, I was going to be the bad guy. So Tamara's like, so Shannon is like, but if you knew about it, Tamara says, don't try to deflect it. Are you defending her? Shannon says, it's a legitimate question. This is something heinous that happened. Why wouldn't you let us know? Tamara says it's because it was too gross and too dark. I'm going to tell you something. I'm not with that at all. If you truly believe that this screenshot that was sent to you was true and that Gretchen was out there liking hateful posts, you and Heather's supposed to be your good girlfriend. You let Gretchen play in Heather's face, come to her event for the Trevor Project, be laughing and kikiing in her face. If I was in a group of folks and somebody's mad at somebody else, and now you want to come to me and say, by the way, they were liking racist tweets about black folks. They were liking All Lives Matter tweets. I'm just not going to have smoke just for them. It's going to be for you too because you played in my face. This is a serious issue and you want to have it in your back pocket just in case. But again, you let this person play in my face. I would have almost as much smoke for you as for the person who was agreeing with this hateful rhetoric. So to me, Tamara, you don't get a pat, especially after you sat down with that lady and made a friendship contract. You didn't have to go that far. So you did all that, planted that seed with Gina before the friendship contract because you knew that Gina was going to bring it up. And Gina, you're an idiot too for even taking it on because you also could have just told Heather. But anyway, let's move along. I just, child. Heather gets up, FaceTimes Terry. She's crying, telling him what happened. Terry's like, I can't believe this. They're all at the table going, why are you reacting so calm? Why aren't you upset? She gets up from the table and calls, and Heather sits back down. Gretchen, no, I'm sorry, Heather, when Heather was up, after she was done talking to Terry, they tell Gretchen, go talk to her. She's telling Heather, it's not me, it's not me. I don't believe this way. Heather's like, you're going to have to find a way to prove it to me, and I can't tell you how you're going to have to do that. Gretchen calls Slade. Slade is like, what? He's like, yeah. She's like, yeah, they're accusing me of liking homophobic, transphobic posts. She says, and Tamara's really giving it to me. He says, not Tamara, not the one who had a gay slur. They show a flashback to prior seasons, and Slade was on there and had on white thong flip-flops. And Tamara says, I think she says, he looks like a homo. Is that what she said? Mouthed. And then she said, sorry, I'm talking about Slade. The Slade says, Google gay slur, and Tamara comes up, not you. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. That's not you. She goes, you're right, sits back down. Now, this was funny. She sits back down at the table. Tamara says, did he give you any good advice? Because Tamara says she can't do anything without Slade. She said, yeah, he told me I don't have to prove anything because I know that's not me. I don't have to defend it. Heather says, that's where you're wrong. That's where he's wrong, though. You do have to defend it if you want to keep this friendship. You sure do. Gretchen says, you got to understand this is all new information for me. Child, she goes to go on. Heather started getting up, gathering her stuff together. Tamara said, Heather don't want to hear what you got to say, so they gather all their stuff up. They're like, she needs to go sit in she needs to ride in a separate van. They all get in the van together. Child, Gretchen goes to get in. They're like, nope. You need to get in your own van. She says, I can't believe you guys are doing this to me. They're like, doing it to you. And they start screaming. She starts crying, saying, why are you doing this? I don't even know where this is coming from. I've never seen this, for God's sake. I know you know this is not who I am. Why the hell would I have those people in my life if I felt that way? Heather says, I don't know. Again, I go back to people will have gay people in their life and be friends, but then feel a certain way about them. It's possible. People will have black folks in their life, but believe all lives matter and don't believe DEI should be a thing and don't believe there's still racism in the world and don't want to hear black people's experiences. It's so when someone says I have a gay friend or I have a black friend, I mean, there's men marry women and they're whole misogynists. That doesn't mean anything just because you have the person in your life. So, she's acting as if because she's through a drag brunch, because she says, I can't believe they're accusing me of this. I had a drag or a Tupperware party or something like that, that it's beyond the realm of possibility. No, ma'am. So Tamara says, do you guys understand why earlier this year I've been so annoyed she's an evil person? Again, I said, but yet you didn't bring it to them until after. So the next day, Heather, Gina, Emily, and Tamara are on their way in the van to the airport. They're talking about how dinner went. Gina says, I feel awful with the way that dinner went. I went to the actual pages of where the hateful rhetoric was posted. She does follow these accounts, so she follows them. But then she went to the post that she supposedly liked and she can't find any of her likes. This is why I said the night before they should have had Gretchen pull her phone out and pull up the posts on her phone And if she liked it, it would have been there. Now, I'm not saying she did, but she had time to go back and unlike when she was in her room. Gretchen Slade might have said, let me log into, he probably already got the password, logged into her account and unliked. So that's why they should have did it in the moment. Tamara says, I don't know. I mean, the posts are a year old. Gina says, yeah, but I can't find any actual proof. Tamara says, maybe she went and unliked the post, which is what I said. Again, that's why they should have looked at her phone last night. Emily said, I don't know if that's the question, but you can't sit across from someone and accuse them of doing something you don't know for sure. And I said, she said, and then here we are judging her reply. Maybe she was in shock and didn't know what to do. I said, boy, they have insight after the dinner, which I get it. I also get it was a shock to everybody, right? In her confessional, Emily said Gretchen's reaction, it wasn't what she felt like it should be. I guess, child, I guess. Emily says, it's not basically a good feeling. They don't want to destroy someone's life and then just go to bed and wake up the next morning and be smug and happy about it. Heather said 100%. And Heather said, I feel terrible. Obviously, it's a very triggering conversation for me in particular. And as soon as I saw that this stuff was brought up, and Emily said, you reacted in a way that you felt in the moment. I get that too. I understand all of it. Heather says, I know, but she's also been a friend for a long time. In her confessional, Heather said, Gretchen has always been really kind to her and her family, and I would hate to ever accuse someone of something that's not true. So Jen asked them, has anybody reached out to her? Gina said, I did. And Heather said she did too. In her confessional, Heather said she reached out to Gretchen and said, I hope this isn't true. Gretchen said, it's not true. And Heather said, I guess we'll find out. I think Tamara was shocked that they reached out to her after they calmed down. Now, I will say they reached out to, some of them reached out to Gretchen. Now, Emily didn't say she did, but some of the ladies weren't happy when Tamara reached out to Katie after she was put out of Emily's home. I'm just saying, I don't know. Anyway, so Gina says, I feel really bad. I wanted to bring something up based on information that I thought was true, and now I'm not so sure it is. Jen said, if she didn't do it, it's effed up. And Gina is emotional. She says she didn't do it. She seemed very confused by it. Emily said, well, then she should have said, F you for bringing this up. I said, but Emily, didn't you just say we can't judge her reaction because she was caught off guard? That might have been your explosive reaction, but maybe it's not, maybe it wasn't hers. And I'm not defending Gretchen at all. I'm just saying I could see a world where you're like, are you kidding? What? And not explosive, like, oh my God, because you're caught off guard. So then Gina says, this just goes back to the root of the problem. You and Gretchen, talking about Tamara, go tit for tat. And I feel this all stems from that. And to be honest, at this point, I want to remove myself from all that. Yeah, Gina's realizing I got set up. So Tamara said, so this is my fault. In her confessional, Jen says, Gina got played for sure. Tamara planted that information and it worked. So Tamara says, you're making it out like it's my fault. Emily said, we're not saying it's your fault. We're saying when it comes down to it, this stems from the root, which is you and Gretchen going back and forth, y'all two fighting. Tamara said, I didn't fight with her. Do you think I wanted to be around her? She's a horrible person. Gina says, both of y'all bring up stuff on the internet to hurt each other. It's you, boom, boom, boom. And it's like you're going to both destroy your lives. In her confessional, Tamara says, how much can I take from this girl? She talks about me. You want me to take this lying down? Checkmate, bitch. I said, ooh. Tamara said, I'm not destroying my life. And Gretchen will never destroy my life because I have a good life. Gina makes a good point. Gina says, and she feels the same way. And now look, I said, ooh, child. We get another black screen. And it's so we get a black screen. 1 year later. Lord, 1 year later. 1 week later. We're at Gretchen and Slade's house. Gretchen asked Slade how she's holding up. She said, I'm trying to pretend like it's okay. In her confessional, she said she's been depressed, not been able to sleep. It's been extremely painful to see every single one of her friends question who she is. Gretchen said, I should have told them, pull up the post. I would have never liked anything like that. Again, that's why they should have pulled out her phone that night and looked it up. She said the only reason I said I didn't think I did was because she was caught off guard. Tamara's sitting with her house at Eddie, with her at her and Eddie's house with Eddie on the couch, and says, "My biggest concern right now is their retaliation against me and you." So she's concerned that Slade is going to try to retaliate because she brought this up on her and Eddie. She said, I think, wait, she said their retaliation against me. I think they're trying to drum up something and make it look like it's my fault. Back with Gretchen and Slade. Slade says, I'm going to get to the bottom of where it came from, where the post came from, who the owner of the page is, all of that. Tamara's back talking to Eddie. And Tamara says, I don't know. I just hope I never have to see her again, honestly. Another black scream. This says, after production wrapped, some of the women received DMs from a person with information about the show, which was not yet known to the public. So remember, after they filmed, there's months before the show was all put together and we see it. Somebody DM'd someone on the cast and was leaking filming details and was telling them filming details that the public wouldn't have known because it hasn't been shown yet. They're at Ryan's house on May 9th, 2 months before the premiere. And it's Jen, Shannon, and Gina. Gina was sent a screenshot from Emily. So did they DM Emily? And this is what it says. I know you don't know who I am. I'm just someone who wants to expose the truth. Part of the reason why I wanted to reach out because Tamara has been leaking details about the entire season throughout filming to bloggers and fan pages. If you want to test my knowledge, feel free. I can prove anything I'm saying. So they call this person probably through Instagram and it's on speaker. I don't know if this person's voice was distorted. I'm assuming it was. The person's just giving them play by play. On this date, this happened. Then in this scene, this happened. And as they're saying it, production is playing the scene, letting us know that what this person's saying is real. Sometimes I wonder if producers are behind some of these blog pages, to be honest with you. I'm just saying, I would not be shocked if it was all a scheme that Ty set up to come to us with this social media BS. Insert auntie spinning around in that chair after she said it, okay? That's how I feel. I wouldn't be surprised. So Gina says, oh my gosh, like this is all of our content. This is ridiculous. This is our entire season. In her confessional, Jen said Tamara was getting away with leaking info, yet holding Katie accountable for doing the exact same thing. Child, if this is true, it looks like Tamara was telling the season to someone. In another confessional, Gina says, Tamara, I'm not here to do your dirty work or be your henchman. Now you're pissing me off, but that's what you in fact did, whether you want it to be or not. They all said, so Shannon in her confessional says, how dare you try to destroy this, for your own benefit. I really can't come up with another word other than evil. Jen says Tamara will do anything for maximum impact. I think she will hurt anybody. Child. She said Tamara, she thinks she will leak information and that she's the most calculated, scary, and dangerous person within the friend group. Child, they get back in the scene. All three of the ladies are looking at the producers in the face and saying, this is insane. And then it goes off. Y'all let me know what y'all think about the season finale. Y'all think they need to shake up this cast for season 20? With it being season 20, that's a big deal. Do y'all think they need to get out with the old and with the new? Or keep some of the old and bring in some new? Y'all let me know what y'all think. Who y'all think should come back? And who y'all think should go? Love y'all so much. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. If there's a hype button next to or underneath the video and you have some hypes left for the week, if you wouldn't mind hyping the video, I would truly appreciate that. And can y'all go follow me on Instagram too at WeGo Podcast, WEIGO Podcast. I would greatly appreciate it. I love y'all. Talk to you later. See ya.